You have probably had days where nothing terrible happened, nothing dramatic went wrong, and yet by the evening you feel strangely drained. Not physically tired, not sick, just quietly worn out in a way that is hard to explain. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you might wonder why. You might even tell yourself that you shouldn't feel this way. You had food, a job, a place to sit, a phone that works, and people who depend on you. So why do you feel heavy inside when everything seems fine? Many people respond to this feeling by trying to stay positive. They remind themselves to be grateful, to look on the bright side, to stop overthinking. They try to mentally correct their own emotions. On the surface, this seems healthy. It sounds mature, responsible, and emotionally intelligent. It sounds like what you are supposed to do. But for many people, the more they try to stay positive, the more tired they quietly become. This often shows up in small, ordinary moments. Sitting at your desk and feeling overwhelmed. Then immediately telling yourself it's not a big deal. Feeling lonely in the evening and brushing it off as being dramatic. You notice frustration rising and you push it down. You notice sadness and you reframe it. You notice boredom and you shame yourself for feeling unmotivated. Over time, this becomes automatic. You barely notice that you are doing it anymore. Your emotional life becomes something you constantly manage. Most people are told that this is resilience, that strong people don't dwell on negative feelings, that mentally healthy people know how to move on. So when you feel tired, you assume something is wrong with you. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you are overthinking. Maybe you just need to be more disciplined. But this explanation doesn't really fit the experience. Many of the people who feel this way are responsible, hardworking, and emotionally aware. They are not avoiding life. They are trying to handle it well. Research suggests that constantly regulating your emotions requires mental effort. When you suppress, reframe, or override what you feel, your brain has to work in the background. It is doing extra processing that you never see. It is similar to holding a heavy object without realizing how heavy it is. At first, it feels manageable. Over time, your muscles begin to shake. Every time you tell yourself, don't feel this, be grateful, or stay positive, your brain has to redirect attention. It has to monitor what you are feeling and adjust it. That costs energy. This is called emotional regulation. It is a normal and useful ability. It helps people function in social situations and difficult environments. But like any mental process, it has limits. When it becomes constant, it becomes tiring. Another layer is internal conflict. When your emotions and your beliefs don't match, your brain has to hold both at once. You feel stressed but believe you shouldn't be. You feel discouraged but think you are supposed to be optimistic. You feel disappointed but remind yourself others have it worse. Now you are managing two experiences at the same time. The original feeling and the judgment about that feeling. This doubles the mental load. Instead of just feeling tired, you feel tired and guilty for being tired. Many people don't realize how much of their day is spent in this quiet self-correction. It happens in meetings, on commutes, in conversations, and while scrolling on their phones. You read an email that stresses you out. You tell yourself you're overreacting. You feel behind at work. You tell yourself to stop complaining. You feel lonely at lunch. You remind yourself you should be grateful to have a job. You feel bored in the evening. You tell yourself to be productive. None of this looks dramatic. From the outside, you seem calm and functional. Inside, your brain is constantly adjusting the volume of your emotions. Research also suggests that when emotions are repeatedly suppressed or minimized, they are not fully processed. Processing an emotion means feeling it, understanding it, and letting it move through you. When you immediately override it, that process gets interrupted. The feeling doesn't disappear. It gets stored in the background. Over time, this can show up as vague exhaustion, or irritability that seems to come from nowhere, or emotional numbness. People often describe it as feeling flat or foggy, not deeply depressed, not deeply anxious, just disconnected and tired. This is not because something is wrong with their personality. It is often because their emotional system has been running in emergency mode for too long. Another hidden cost is emotional labor. Staying positive often means managing not just your own feelings, but how others perceive you. You smile when you are tired. You reassure people when you are unsure. You downplay your stress so you don't burden anyone. This is especially common in workplaces. Being professional often means appearing calm, motivated, and agreeable, regardless of how you feel. So you perform emotional stability. You perform enthusiasm. You perform resilience. That performance takes energy. Even when nothing bad happens, the performance itself is work. Studies on emotional labor show that this kind of constant self-management contributes to burnout, not because people are weak, but because they are constantly regulating themselves. Another quiet effect is how positivity culture turns normal emotions into personal failures. If positivity is the standard, then sadness feels like a mistake. Feeling overwhelmed becomes evidence that you are not coping well enough. Feeling bored becomes evidence that you lack ambition. Instead of seeing emotions as information, you see them as problems to fix. You become your own emotional supervisor. This creates a subtle pressure to always be okay, even with close friends, even with yourself. Over time, this makes it harder to trust your own feelings. You stop asking what they are telling you. You only ask how to get rid of them. Many people grow up learning that negative emotions are inconvenient. They are told to cheer up, calm down, stop worrying, be strong. So staying positive feels like being responsible. It feels like being mature. But maturity does not mean constant emotional correction. It means understanding what emotions are doing. Another reason positivity becomes exhausting is that it keeps you in problem-solving mode. When something feels bad, you immediately try to fix it mentally. You reframe, you rationalize, you compare, you distract. Your brain never rests in simple awareness. It is always adjusting, editing, and managing. This is similar to constantly monitoring your posture. At first, it seems helpful. Eventually, it becomes draining. In daily life, this shows up in small ways. You finish work and feel depleted, even though you mostly sat at a desk. You go home and scroll on your phone, trying to relax but still feel tense. You lie in bed and replay the day, correcting your reactions. You tell yourself you should be grateful for your life, and you are. But gratitude becomes another task. Gratitude becomes something you perform, not something you feel. The uncomfortable realization is that trying to be positive is often a form of emotional control. It is not always acceptance. It is management. It is an attempt to keep your inner world tidy and socially acceptable. This works in the short term. It helps you function. It helps you avoid conflict. It helps you get through the day. In the long term, it can disconnect you from your own emotional signals. You stop noticing when you are overwhelmed until you are exhausted. You stop noticing when something matters to you until you feel empty. You stop noticing when you need rest until you burn out. This does not mean positivity is bad. It does not mean optimism is harmful. It does not mean you should dwell on negative thoughts. It means that forced positivity is different from genuine emotional balance. Genuine balance includes discomfort. It includes confusion. It includes admitting when something is heavy. Research suggests that people who allow themselves to acknowledge difficult emotions tend to recover from stress more effectively, not because they enjoy negativity, but because they process it. Processing means noticing, naming, and allowing feelings without immediately trying to eliminate them. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. It often happens internally. It looks like saying, "This day was harder than I expected," without immediately correcting yourself. It looks like noticing irritation without turning it into self-criticism. It looks like allowing disappointment without minimizing it. Again, this is not about becoming pessimistic. It is about reducing the constant internal supervision. It is about letting your emotional system breathe. Many people fear that if they stop staying positive, they will fall apart, that they will become negative or stuck. But research does not support this fear. Acknowledged emotions tend to pass more naturally than suppressed ones. Avoided emotions tend to linger. When you stop fighting every uncomfortable feeling, your brain spends less energy on regulation. That energy becomes available for thinking, creativity, and recovery. You may still feel tired sometimes. Life is demanding, work is demanding, social life is demanding. But the tiredness feels cleaner, less tangled with guilt and self-judgment. You start to feel tired because you are tired, not because you are tired of managing yourself. This is not something you can switch on instantly. Most people have practiced positivity for years. It is deeply embedded in how they think and talk to themselves. But simply understanding what is happening can be relieving. It reframes exhaustion as a signal, not a failure. It explains why you can feel worn out even when you are doing everything right. It explains why being emotionally responsible can sometimes feel emotionally expensive. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are not ungrateful. You are not broken. You are likely someone who has been quietly regulating themselves for a long time, trying to be okay, trying to be reasonable, trying to be positive. And that effort over months and years adds up. Sometimes feeling better does not start with feeling happier. It starts with feeling more honest, not in public, not on social media, just inside your own mind. Honest about what weighs on you, honest about what drains you, honest about what you need. When positivity becomes permission rather than pressure, it stops being exhausting. And when you understand this, the tiredness makes more sense. It becomes something you can listen to rather than something you have to fight. Not because you are doing anything wrong, but because you are human, living in a world that quietly asks you to manage yourself all the time. And that is tiring even when everything looks fine.